Welcome to the first of several videos about working with quadratics, and specifically how to go between forms. As you probably know, we have three forms for quadratic functions. We have standard form, vertex form, and factored form. Standard form is often written as ax squared plus bx plus c. Vertex form is often written as a times x minus h squared plus k. And factored form has many generalizations, but for now I'm just going to point out that factored form almost always ends up with two sets of parentheses multiplied together, and sometimes there's a number out in front here. Let's call it a for now. This video is about going from standard form to factored form. My next video will talk about going from standard to vertex. So, to go from standard form to factored form, first we need a quadratic. Let's go with y equals 2x squared plus 12x, and let's see, what do I want that to turn into? Let's go with minus 14. This one hopefully will work out rather nicely. So the first thing you need to do to go from standard form, which is what we have here, to factored form is, well, what we're going to do is go through a process called factoring. In order to factor, you need to take your first number, your a value, and multiply it by your c value. So I'm going to do 2 times negative 14. And that will combine to be a negative 28. And now what I need is two numbers that multiply to be negative 28, and yet add to be a positive 12. And so it may take you a little while to guess at those. You may try guessing 7 times 4. Well, negative 7 times positive 4. That would get you a negative 28, but it won't quite get you to 12. It'll get you to 11. You may try 14 and 2. If we try negative 14 and positive 2, as we did up here, we'd have negative 14 plus 2 would get me a negative 12, not a positive 12. If that happens, usually a good thing to do is to try flipping them around. So let's try doing a negative 2 and a positive 14. Negative 2 times positive 14 is a negative 28, and it's also a positive 12. So we are going to rewrite 12x as negative 2x plus 14x, and we'll bring down the rest of our quadratic around it. Now, we want to group this quadratic in such a way that we can factor it nicely. In the end, it doesn't matter which way you order these. It should always factor. And so we're going to group our first two terms and our last two terms, like so. Now, I want to factor these, and by factor I mean I need to pull out a common factor from each one. So let's just list out all of the factors for each term. 2x squared has factors of 2 times x times x. And 2x, negative 2x specifically, has a factor of negative 1, 2, and x. So I'm going to take out as many common factors as I can. In this case, I'll take out a 2 and an x. Because this is division, when I divide 2x squared by 2x, I'll have an x left. And I'm going to go ahead and write what I took out in front. Again, if I divide negative 2x by 2x, I'll have a negative 1 left. Notice, if you put this back in, 2x times x would give you 2x squared. 2x times negative 1 would give you negative 2x. We'll do the same thing over here with 14 times x and negative 14, let's go ahead and call that a negative 1 times positive 14. Just to make it clear. Here we have a 14 in common, so I'm going to take out a positive 14. And I'll be left with an x and a negative 1. Notice we have x minus 1 in each of these two expressions. That means we're doing well. It's a good way to check. Now I'm going to factor out x minus 1 in the same way. This second set of parentheses should always turn into whatever you had out in front here and whatever you have there. And make sure you take that sign with it. So this factors into x minus 1 and 2x plus 14. Now some of you may notice that 2 and 14 also have a number in common. It happens to be 2. In order to deal with that, I'm going to factor out a 2 from this expression. And I'll be left with x plus 7. And now, just to make it look like our other parabolas and our other quadratics, I'm going to rewrite this using the commutative property, and I'm just going to pull this 2 out to the front. That is a process called factoring by grouping. Notice up here in that red set of parentheses, we grouped our factors that we were going to factor things out of. A couple of things to watch out for here. Please remember that you need to multiply your a value and your c value together. Make sure you take the sign with both. And then when you're trying to find your factors, start by finding things that multiply to be that negative 28, or that a times c. Then see what they add up to. If they add up to be your b value, great. If not, you need to start again. Start with the multiplication, because it is more restrictive than the addition is. And then in the end, you'll get down to here. So, that is how you factor from standard form to factored form. It is a process called factoring, and it goes just like that. In my next video, I will show you how to go to from standard to vertex form using completing the square.